Welcome back to our Nebraska pregame coverage. I'm Avarie Howard alongside Damon Benning. We were just talking before, it's been 276 days since the last Nebraska football game, which means you guys have been talking about football for a long time without any football being played. I'm sure you're excited. How are we feeling for week one?
I know, right? How many guys you hear in the talk radio business say, I'm glad talking season's over?
Yep.
It has been it's been a long off season, but you know the strange thing is something was always relevant, right?
Yeah.
I mean, whether it was Coach Rule making himself accessible multiple times throughout the offseason, or storylines from spring, or, you know, even Coach Cooper's departure, Coach Butler coming on staff, you know, Coach Thomas addition. It seemed like it was always something to keep it fresh, but definitely glad it's boiling down to more football.
Yeah. I think we said this last offseason, but somehow this offseason jumped it. It felt like before Coach Rule even coached the first game, everyone was hopeful. This last offseason has felt even more hopeful. Do you feel that way?
I do. Like, I think one of the reasons I think we've gravitated so much and consumed so much positivity is so much of what he says appears to be more applicable than just to football.
Yeah.
Right? It's like how to do life, or how to parent, or how to be a spouse, or how to be a good friend, right? So I think you're always looking for those most motivational speeches, and even though he's talking about his team and what it means to coach at the University of Nebraska, we somehow are inspired by it because there are so many things that are applicable to just normal day-to-day life.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get right to it because that's everyone's questions. Our second ever true freshman to start will be Dylan Raiola this Saturday. The last one was Adrian Martinez. For you, what's the most important thing for him on Saturday? Is it channeling that adrenaline, or is it how he actually commands the offense?
Yeah, for me, this sounds really cliche from a coaching standpoint, but he's just got to be him. Yeah. See, the traits that he exudes, the poise, the leadership, he's kind of like has that Pied Piper vibe to him. Mm-hmm. Just do that. Mm-hmm. The rest will take care of itself, because what he gets to do on Saturday, it's just a culmination of or a celebration of the work. So that part is behind him. Now he just gets to go out and be the guy that we all think he is. And for him, I'm hoping, and it should come second nature.
Yeah. When you watch him on Saturday, will there be things he does, or will you be able to say, I think he's feeling comfortable right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, I like the way that guys, what their presence is in the huddle, right? You're going to have communication devices. So once the play is called and it's signaled in and they break that huddle, what happens what's the body language after that? Will we see the two hands back to the helmet? Will we need to see more communication where he's not getting it? Or will it be simply, hey, play call, ready, break, we're back to the huddle, and he's handling protections, right? Because those are the things that let me know that even as just a young kid, a young man, taking his first snaps at Memorial Stadium as a starter, that he's in full control.
Yeah. Well, depth chart did come out yesterday. No surprises on defense, I'd say. Offense, there was a lot more oars that their eyes were on. With the running back room being wide open, what did you make out of that? Did that surprise you at all?
Yeah, I think it's held true to form of what's been said in the offseason. They'll wait for somebody to take the reins, and they're going to use real game reps to do it. I think you'll see some combination of the four in a variety of roles, and they'll wait to see how it plays out. But they're clearly on audition. This time it just happens to be in-game.
Yeah. And then Janarian Bonner listed as that number one guy in the slot. You've talked about him some. Coach Rule had high praise from yesterday. What do you think? I mean, you've seen him in the offseason. You've talked about him. What have you seen in his progression that's made him that number one guy?
He knows everything. He is a jack of all trades and seemingly master of all, right? He can play in the slot. He can play outside. He can be an H-back. He can be an inline tight end. He just has tremendous command. He's got a great frame. He's got really good poise where the moments don't seem too big for him. He's just like Steady Eddie.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of guys like that I feel like have kind of flown under the radar because of all the flash and dash and new toys. But there are two mainstays that I think could be critical, and they both are in that room. One is Bonner, and the other is Borkacher, a guy that I think he trots out there all the time when they break the huddle, and he's kind of the forgotten man. So I think both those guys as pass catchers and inline guys and multiple guys could have could have big roles.
Yeah, I find it interesting to see which players that have had now a year 2 under Coach Rule. As most people will note that under year 2 of Coach Rule, good things happen. And for on the other side, UTEP, they're entering a year 1. They've got a new head coach who's high energy, fast offense guy. I know Nebraska fans, the coaches, I'll tell you it's about Nebraska this weekend. But when you get ready for this game on Saturday, what are some things that you think you'll be expecting from this coaching staff at UTEP that Nebraska will have to keep an eye out?
Yeah, so there's 3 things. I think they're going to try to spread Nebraska out. So Nebraska has to be able to handle being in space. How are they communicating with one another, especially defensively? Conversely, when they're in space on offense, it will be about negotiating UTEP's tempo, right? They could get a ton of tempo, a ton of space. We're used to space and pace in the other sport that's played indoors with a hoop. But it is a real thing for UTEP too, so how is Nebraska going to negotiate that? And then I think the third thing is when Nebraska breaks the huddle, both offensively and defensively, can they get lined up correctly? And in openers, when you haven't seen some formations and you're trying new things and it's the first time you've done it, sometimes there's a tendency to get a little chaotic. I would pay attention to see if Nebraska's just getting lined up correctly on both sides of the ball.
We haven't even mentioned the defense yet for Nebraska. I think that's because that's probably where the least amount of questions sit right now. But when you assess the defense on Saturday, what are you expecting to see from them? What will you evaluate as a good day for them on Saturday?
So I think there's 2 things you're looking at in particular. Well, 3 if you count the getting lined up correctly.
Yeah.
Right? Veteran group, a lot of older guys. Number 1 is tackling in space. Are they getting guys to the ground and eliminating yards after the catch and yards after contact? Because that's what UTEP wants to do to you. And the other thing is when they're shuttling guys in, out, because I think they'll play a ton of guys, are they still continuing with a standard? We've heard some delineation sometimes between the young guys and the older guys and feeling like you're talking to 2 teams. Can you still keep the standard, getting guys multiple hats to the ball and finding ways to take the football away?
Yeah. When I mention the defense, it's because there's a lot of veteran presence, but there is some young guys that, you know, they had reps last year, or there are young guys in general on both sides of the ball that this will be their first ever game at Memorial. And for a lot of these veterans, they came back because that pressure is so high that they want to have the season that they've been coming back for. No matter what side of the, you're on, whether it's the young guy, the veterans, when you come into that first game at Memorial, especially with the expectations that seem to be set on this team, how do you channel all that correctly? The adrenaline, how do you channel those first few minutes, whether you're a Dylan Raiola or you're an Isaac Gifford?
Yeah, it starts with staying in the moment. Be present right where your feet are. The next play, not the past play, and stay right here. And the other thing is to always bring it back to your 1 of 11. What is my job and what is my role? Right? It's a great big puzzle. Just have command of your piece. Right? I know that sounds a little oxymoronic in the ultimate team game, but even I can do the math of if you're doing 1 of 11 and 11 guys do it, you get 11 guys doing it. So I think that's the focus.
Yeah. When Saturday's over, whether we don't know the result, we've talked about that. There's no throwaway game for Nebraska. No game is a shoo-in at all. What will this coaching staff be looking for when that game is over? That was a sign of progress from this offseason.
So I think he gave us kind of an inkling in his presser. By he, I mean Coach Rule, when he said, this one isn't about scheme. This isn't about drawing up plays in the dirt. This is about winning individual matchups and playing free. I think as much as anything with the data, the yardage, the score, Nebraska will be looking to see who most embodied who they thought they were before the game started. Yeah. I think that's critical because as Nebraska starts to get comfortable in their own skin, the moments become a lot more normalized for some of these guys.
Yeah. As we wrap it up, you might not like this question, so sorry. But every game's important for you. This one seems a little bit more special because your last name is on a jersey again. Have you thought about this Saturday, and just what does this Saturday mean to you as you and your family?
Yeah, it's a big deal, and I think he's got a chance as one of the young guys to contribute, and it's been an exciting camp. I mean, hearing his name in the past press conferences and kind of knowing what's expected of him as he's worked with some of the top units have been cool. I try not to give that specific moment any thought because I'm waiting to just have Sharp or somebody pick me up off the floor. But believe me, I'll play it cool.
Yeah.
But inside, it's definitely I'm nervous.
Yeah. Can we get a camera in that booth or no?
Yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping to prolong it. I know he's not.
Yeah. Right,
I'd like to prolong it.
Well, there you have it. Week 1 preview. We'll be back next week. We'll see what happens on Saturday.